So today we're going to complete for now. Although I may be doing a bonus webinar on this next week. But by and large, today is the final part in the 4-week series on this particular topic. So what we're going to be doing is just recapping everything we've discussed today and go through this in depth. So this is what we've got here in terms of financial product advice, taking account of your objectives, financial situations, or needs. So what does it mean to be sovereign? So the exact dictionary definition is the quality or state of being sovereign, having supreme power or authority, the full right and power to govern itself without interference from outside sources and bodies. So that's what we started off by saying. So sovereignty is really taking authority and responsibility to make your own decisions on things by and large. That's what it's about. So what we talked about was taking opportunity when they comes up. Now, one of the greatest things in my view about sovereignty is a difference between someone who's a sovereign individual and someone who's not. A sovereign individual is very much driven by legacy, about opportunity, and about really leaving a legacy and making a real difference in the world around them. So that's the big difference, so to speak. So the sovereign individual is all about making a real difference in the world and a real difference in the lives of individuals around them and on the planet. So whereas a slave, by contrast, just lives this kind of meaningless existence, always blaming things and people outside themselves. So this is one of my favorite passages of sacred writings, where it talks about the fact that opportunity and sovereignty is for everyone. And Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, says that. He says, really, I've met people who are not very smart who become wealthy. I've equally met people incredibly talented who haven't. And the big difference between the person who's sovereign and doing very well is not really your talent. It's not really how smart you are. It's not how strong you are. It's taking advantage of the times and the chances and what's given to you. And there's a very interesting sacred writing or parable in the Bible called the parable of the talents. And it goes something like this. There was talks about 3 different people. And the first one was given 5 talents or 10 talents. The second one was given 5. And the third one was only given 1. And the one who had 10 turned it into 20. The one who had 5 turned it into 10. And the one who had 1 didn't do anything with it other than hiding it in the ground because he was scared he would lose it. So when he came to account, and the first 2 got greatly praised for using their talents to their best, the one who got 5 got the same reward as the one who had 10. The one who only had 1 got no reward, and in fact, quite the contrary, had what they had taken off them, because their whole attitude was whinging, saying, well, we only got 1 talent, everyone else got more, and it's not fair. And so basically what they had was taken from them. And that's very much a universal law, that those who have abundance and are grateful for what they've got and who take advantage of their opportunities end up getting more. Those who don't take advantage of their opportunities, they focus on what they don't have, they whinge about their lot in life or whatever, are the ones who miss out. So it's got nothing to do with your university degrees, your opportunities. Everyone gets opportunity. Everyone gets their chance in life. And everyone had the same opportunity in COVID to make decisions depending on their choices that they made. And each people made different choices depending on what was important. So that's why it says, so are the sons of men taken captive in an evil time. So the big thing with sovereignty is to realize you're responsible for everything that happens in your life and you're accountable for it. You have the power to change your life. That's the first thing that happens when you become a sovereign individual. You don't blame governments for anything. You don't blame anyone. It doesn't mean you don't get mad at governments the same way you don't get mad at your friends or mad at your family or mad about the stupidity and absurdity of what goes on. But you ultimately realize that you can't always change what's going on outside of you, but you can massively change your internal reaction. So that's the first thing with sovereignty. So a man or woman who is sovereign realizes that government is ultimately created by man or woman, and they're accountable to God. So they make their decisions on that basis. So a sovereign man or woman, for example, will frequently do tithing because tithing is the right thing to do, for them. They want to contribute. They want to do something to help their community. They want to do something to make a difference in the lives of people around them. They want to help. They want to contribute. They want to do things. They want to help the less fortunate. So they do things because they want to do them. If they don't want to do things, they just don't do them. If they don't want to go to church, they don't go to church. If they want to go to church, they do go to church. Doesn't matter what people think of them. That's a very good example. Equally, I met someone yesterday who was very calmly said to me, look, I didn't like what went on with the whole vaccine. I chose to take it and I was really fine with it. But she said, I was very upset with seeing what happened for other people. But she said, I've never regretted it for a minute, And that was someone who made her own sovereign choice. So that's what sovereignty is. So the slave versus the sovereign really comes down to what I was just sharing in our VIP update webinar just then about the wealth matrix, about how you've got the majority who by and large remain within the system. And the welfare are very much part of the system. The indoctrinated are enforcing and promoting the system because they benefit from it. The sitting on the fence often go along with it in the end because it's easier than taking a stand and sacrificing their way of life and causing hardship for themselves or their families, generally leaving not a lot of people to stand up and push back and be sovereign. And of the awake 20%, there's a proportion who stand up and become sovereign, who make the change, and the majority tend to stay awake, but often tend to be frustrated, always blaming things outside themselves. So to become a sovereign individual, it sounds exciting, but in the real world, it's much harder than it actually looks because it involves a whole change in your way of thinking. It involves a whole change in your actions. It involves a change in the way you approach life and approach everything, from relationships to business partnerships to situations where people that you're working with, to everything, like with the whole vaccine. For me, it was simple. If I got a really bad adverse reaction, if I took it, it never crossed my mind for a minute to take it. But if I had, I always thought to myself, I'd be asking, could I live with myself if I got a health thing, or would I be blaming the government or blaming someone? So that's the thing, can I live with myself if I go ahead and do this and have a reaction, And that was a question that I had to ask myself. So the sovereign individual always bring things back to themselves first and foremost. A non-sovereign individual, you'll often hear words like, well, I've got to stay in my marriage for my kids, or, I just don't want to upset this person, or I don't want to hurt my parents, or I don't want to hurt my accountant's feelings. They've been in the family for a long time now. So if I go to a new accountant, I know this accountant's not necessarily doing the best. I just don't want to upset the family and hurt the accountant's feelings. That's what you hear from a non-sovereign individual. And what I probably hear from the vast majority of clients that I work with, like they find it very difficult to make those changes because they don't want to hurt this person's feelings, or, I don't really want to take this step with my family because I might, upset my family if I do this kind of stuff, or if I try and enforce that debt within my family, affairs, that might happen. So that's a very common thing with a non-sovereign individual. A sovereign individual doesn't mean they don't experience those emotions, but then that those emotions govern them. They ultimately govern them by the sovereign principle and realize everyone's responsible for their own decision. And if that's the right decision for them, they trust that it will work out for the other person, because it usually does in the end. Usually, many months later, the other person comes back and says, look, I was really angry when you did that, but, and Grace and I laugh about it now, but when we're separated and she started to, we kind of giggle about it to get me back by, doing a few little things where she was spending a bit more on the credit card. So I just canceled the credit card, and she was ropeable with me. And then months later, we laughed about it because she said, it taught me a lesson, about stepping up and being financially empowered and, not using that because it ultimately hurt me and as much as anyone. So we laughed about it and then we worked it out. And now, as many of you know, we work together in business and we're good friends. But so the sovereign person will always do what's right by them first and foremost. As much as possible, they want to, what their actions to benefit and help other people around them. But if there's a conflict between pissing off someone else or pissing themselves off, they'll piss off the other person because they can withdraw from the other person and hide from them if they have to. They can't withdraw and hide from themselves quite so easily. That's a good thing for you to ponder today. At the end of the day, you've got to live with your choice. You've got to live with your decisions. And if you piss yourself off, you've got to live with yourself day in, day out, 24/7. You don't have to live with someone else. If you piss off things like that. So three pillars of being sovereign we shared about the sovereign mindset, sovereign income streams, keeping what you make, and what's required to be sovereign in Australia. We went through 7 things, which I said, as a general rule: purpose and destiny, strong mindset and emotional balance. That's why I'm doing a lot more teaching around this kind of area, around mindset and emotional balance. I'm starting to run courses because it's so important. I found I tried everything to be sovereign myself until I mastered this area. And as soon as I did, the rest of it actually became easy. My personal view, more and more, it's actually relatively easy to being sovereign if you get your mind sorted out. That's the easy part. So the easy part is being sovereign once your mind's been sorted out. The hard part is sorting out the mind and getting yourself in the right state of mind. And those of you who've worked with me for quite a while would know exactly what I'm talking about. That's the hard thing, breaking out of the fear of authority, fear of government, being able to become your own man or your own woman where you don't upset or hurt people, And once you get that, everything else is a lot easier. Building a business, making money, yeah, it's challenging, but it's really, once you've got the right mindset, really you can do it. It's that simple. Whereas if you've got the wrong mindset, it doesn't matter what you learn, you're going to have problems. Alternative energy, making sure you've got good backup plans, income streams that aren't reliant on any kind of system, balanced assets robustly protected, having a balanced portfolio. Really important that your assets and your money is well balanced, well spread, and well cushioned, so you're not under financial stress, because financial stress locks up your creativity. So setting yourself up to balance your portfolio, build some stability, is really important. And 7 is taxes legally slashed. That's also very important, that you're really not paying any taxes you don't actually have to pay. Sovereign individuals don't. So if you could just about get all that happening in your life, you are pretty much a sovereign individual. So at some level. So we discussed about how often we've talked about sovereign, about moving overseas, but the truth is you can be sovereign in your own land. That's the whole reason I did this series, how you can actually be sovereign living in your own land right now. So by getting good asset protection, by setting up structures to minimize your taxes, for example, one of the things I shared about in the recent webinars in terms of many clients and things like that was about the ability to actually use certain structures and what the wealthy actually do, to legally minimize their taxes. So, as an example, charitable foundations is very popular, and the high net worth use it not only for asset protection, but to legally minimize their taxes. Recap of asset protection strategies. We also went through a number of strategies around that. So foundations is like one of the best gems, like the vast majority of the high net worth in the wealth matrix use foundations, and they do it for a good reason. It gives you opportunity to be philanthropic, and it gives you opportunity to legally minimize your taxes and really not pay an awful lot legally. So asset protection, we mentioned soon governments will blatantly target your wealth, how it's already started. The Great Reset will affect it. Asset seizures, that's the biggest thing that we're seeing signs of in Queensland. Those of you who've been following Stephen's economic updates talks about the land tax and about the diesel things and the petrol and things like that. These are all indirect forms of seizures, like ways that governments will do it. I've always said property is one of the easiest things for governments to target because you can tax the hilt out of it. There's not an awful lot you can do about it just because. And the only thing stopping them is they don't want to blow the property market completely out the water to keep the economy going. But by and large, you can take a lot of taxes out of people. And that's the way effectively they can do it and move it to foreign ownership and things like that. So there's more insidious forms of asset seizures happening and resets happening and wealth transfers going on as we speak. Seeing this kind of stuff, more and more countries are making it harder to move wealth offshore. So learning to be very proactive is critical to keep your wealth well protected. And as well as having the right structures, I'm telling you, I've seen people with the best structures lose their money and clients with the worst structures keep it. And it all comes down to having the right mindset. One very good thing, for example, in fact, I've got a couple of clients this week I'm speaking to. One thing that the wise know is that let's just say that you've got the government chasing you for a large amount of taxes or money, but those taxes are in a company or structure and not in your own name. There can be legal insolvency restructures with no effect to a credit rating where you can get rid of the debt. We're speaking with a client right now who's got a $282,000 debt, which we're going to be able to just about wipe out 100% legally by doing a complete restructure using corporate insolvency liquidation. So these are things that the elite know. These are things that the high net worth know what to do. So, for example, if anyone here has ever had a COVID debt situation, which is killing your business, and you've got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of tax debt, and it's stressing you out because you were caught out by the lockdowns, well, yeah, guess what? There are insolvency restructures you can do for, which, as I said to someone, will you pay 50 grand to get rid of a 280 grand debt legally? And the answer is obviously, because the statutes of the laws clearly state that the moment you put a company into a corporate insolvency, the tax office no longer can chase you for the debt. They have to go through the process. So there's all this kind of stuff, but the wealthy know, and things you can actually do to legally, protect your wealth, but also deal with immediate situations. So we went through the 7 basic rules of asset protection. Keeping wealth is just as important as making it. Like, that's why you get insurance for your car, and you certainly want to get insurance for your wealth. Own nothing, control everything, and be a penniless bum, in other words. So own nothing, control everything. On paper, be a penniless bum. You really don't want to own stuff on paper. Number 3, straw man and person of substance. If you are married or in a relationship or working with someone and one of you is at risk of being sued and one's not, you set your situation up so one of you is basically taking all the risk and the other one controls the assets and takes no risks. A lot of this is on the free videos on the Global Wealth Club site. So, for example, if you ever want to watch videos about this particular thing, you certainly can do so. What you would do is simply go to this Global Wealth Club. On our education, there's free trainings and there's everything on foundations, there's asset protection, there's all kinds of stuff in the free trainings, as well as on our YouTube channel. So this is where you can get more information on that if you really do want to get hold of that. But yes, this is a great one. Separate entities. So for example, if you've got a business, don't use your own name. The perfect example of that is a client who owes $282,000. If they did not have a company running their business, we would not be able to help them. They would literally be having to go bankrupt or work their ass off 80 hours a week until they pay their debt off. So the beautiful thing with having done the right thing and structured through companies and done all the right things, we're able to save them and give them an opportunity to start their business again and get back on their feet. It's really good to be able to reward a client who's done all the right things and set up correctly, who's now got himself in some trouble from the COVID lockdowns. So the other one is you certainly want to make sure you do that, because with this client, let's just say that she had all of her investments in the same company, would have been a problem. Fortunately, her gold, her cash, her shares are all held in a completely different structure to the one here. So as an example, this particular client would have, you got one structure over here, which holds business, and the other one over here holds investments. Now, if she had mixed the two together, she would be in all kinds of trouble, because if she owed, say, $280,000 to the tax office and she had all the investments in the same structure of the business, guess what? We wouldn't have much choice. We'd say to her, you're going to have to liquidate all your investments, pay out the tax office and go from there. Because they're separate, she's going to save her investments, save her cash, and even save her business through a restructure and a buyout and a corporate insolvency. So there's all this stuff you can do when you follow the rules that are being taught here, when you actually learn to do this correctly and separate between the various uses. Number 6 is, as you've got these other steps mastered, you can harness the use of the offshore world. I will go back and say this again. I mean, many clients I meet, like they're running like counseling business, hypnotherapy businesses, various little online businesses, e-commerce, makeup, network marketing in their own name. And if they get into trouble, they got no recourse. Doesn't matter what the business is. Offshore world, as you have more and more money, you start looking offshore and using foundations. And critically, all of the wealthy use the right team of experts. That's the secret. Get the right people to work with you as part of your wealth team. And some of you have done that with the Global Wealth Club. We talked about sovereign income streams and how important it is to start creating these more and more and go one at a time. We mentioned last week. The big thing that I taught last week was about manifestation and how it comes from feeling and how your subconscious mind always takes you literally. So one of the things I was sharing last week was to really talk about your income streams and start talking about manifesting an abundant income stream. Do you know, when I taught this, I've even realized that although I do it, I've started doing it even more the last couple of weeks since I've been teaching more of this, and I've been manifesting more money more easily than I have in a long time. And it's like, wow, I've just been applying what I'm teaching you all on a more intensified level. Because your subconscious mind, all it hears is what you're constantly feeding into it. If you keep beating into it, but you can easily create sovereign income streams and you get yourself to believe that, you will start doing it. It's not that difficult. Even about 6 weeks ago, I was saying things like with my dance classes that I'm doing, but I just find this really hard. It takes me a lot longer than everyone else. And I got pulled up by my dance instructor who knows manifestation. So I started saying, well, yeah, I actually am getting these things, you know, I'm starting to get quicker and quicker and catching the moves now. My mind-body connection is working better. I've made more progress in the last 3 weeks than I made in the first 4 months of my dance classes, just by changing my approach and the way I was thinking. And your brain pathways change and start to take action, and your subconscious mind and conscious mind start working together and start seeing opportunities that you never saw previously. So when you're in doubt, you might see a good opportunity, but you just hesitate. When you're thinking on that level, you start to see the opportunity, and you move with it. So that's the most important thing, as well as taking action to start working on it. If you don't have any income stream, start with a business of some kind. Find something you enjoy doing and serve people. If you're not ready to do that yet, then at least get a job doing something that you enjoy doing that will be serving other people. You know, getting a job you enjoy that really serves other people, you know. And, you know, we've got a girl who now started working with us in the last few months with social media. Good example of someone who's got a job doing something where she's learning skills, she's enjoying it, well, seems to be anyway, and where you can see she's going to be able to go from strength to strength because she's doing a job, but she's doing something she enjoys with clear goals and things like that. So that's the key, and that's the secret. I mentioned about businesses as well, and we went through various things like consulting and how the weak get disappear. Even at the moment in our business, we're looking at certain contractors who we just don't think are producing the level of excellence that others that we have we're doing, and we're culling them down. You know, that's what starts happening as a business as you hit times of more challenge. Businesses start, you know, fine tuning and scaling down and doing that kind of stuff to make them more lean. So if you're not excellent in what you're doing, you will be culled. So the Great Reset to me will be ultimately the biggest culling process just about ever seen, to really separate, you know, the girls from the, you know, the women from the girls, or the men from the boys, or whatever. In other words, those who really are good at what they're doing and why they're up to that, you know, things like that. So okay, so the final thoughts is that we've got the sovereign in your own land. As you can see, the biggest things you want to be doing is getting yourself in the right mindset, taking the action steps on your wealth protection and on your income streams. And what I'd be sharing with you, if you're already on the right track, great. You know, just work out any area where you're not quite on the right track or where you need improvement and work on it, or get a good mentor or someone who can help you. If you really know that you go, God, I've got quite a bit of work to do, I cannot emphasize strongly enough to invest in getting yourself some kind of assistance, training, mentoring, or whatever. This is something that I have no bones in saying about to people, because I spent over 7 figures, I reckon over $1 million in mentoring from various business mentors, spiritual mentors, investment mentors, whatever it took to make myself completely sovereign and get myself in that process. And still to this day, I'm investing in mentoring to continue to learn. So never be afraid to invest very good money, because if you keep doing the same things that you're doing today, you will stay in the same place. And keep in mind that the more further ahead you are in life and stuck in a little rat race of your own, it's harder to get out without a really good mentoring to help break you out of it. So biggest thing is to start the journey today, to really get yourself sovereign and to start taking the practical action steps. To number one, make sure you've got someone working with you on your mindset to get you into that sovereign way of thinking. That's the number one thing. If you can't get that, everything else doesn't matter. Number two, make sure your assets that you've already got are well protected. That's the second point. Point number three is to make sure you're not paying any more taxes when you legally have to. And number four, just ask yourself, are the income streams I'm getting sovereign and secure? And if not, what's a new income stream I can start working on doing? If you're not sure, then by all means, get some advice or get some help. On that note, any questions? So what questions do you have? So Christine, all good, great reminders. Aidan pretty much covered it. Louise, thanks, very clear. Danielle, great summary. Awesome, that's great, everyone. That's great, Aidan, thank you. Rising Phoenix, good summary, brilliant. So what we'll do to finish off is the next steps is if you really do want some help about becoming sovereign in your own land, or if you're genuinely interested in the manifestation course that I mentioned, the best thing for you to do, there's two things I'm going to mention. One is what we're going to, in our bonus webinar, is go to Global Wealth Club and just complete the inquiry form. Or if you're already dealing with an expert here, by all means, just email us here and complete it and just mention what you're wanting. If you're wanting the manifestation and that's what interests you, just mention that. If you're wanting just to have a free chat with someone about getting mentoring or structuring or working more on how to be sovereign in your own land, just complete the form and then someone will get in contact with you and have a chat with you. So if you want to do something on manifestation and mindset, I'm beginning a program at the end of this month where I'm going to be teaching them my best stuff on manifestation, mindset, and things like that to really master that and get on top of it. So this way you can really go forward and basically, begin the journey, whether it's getting some, advice or some help on your sovereignty plan, on your structuring, or just chat with the options about mentoring, around mindset, or just around getting yourself structured correctly or getting yourself a balanced portfolio. So just complete this form. Many of you here I've noticed are already by and large existing clients, so you can just email us and have a chat with one of us. Anyone here who this is all quite new for us, or quite new for you, and you're definitely keen to have a chat with us when we're completing the form, just so we got some idea. Okay, yep. Yeah, most people here already know, and a couple of you already messaged me privately, so the ones who messaged me privately, our team have responded. Next week, we're going to do another bonus webinar, and that's just going to be on this one because I'm really keen to help people, minimize taxes, and it's one of my favorite things to do legally. So I'll be teaching about that next time. So, yep, someone here has mentioned they're new to this. Great to have you here, Eliza. Lovely to see you. So welcome, and by all means, please feel free to complete one of the forms and come along. So, yep, I'll see everyone next week. For those of you who want to come, we'll be teaching about legally minimizing your taxes by up to 75 cents. And yeah, this is a webinar I've done previously. People really enjoy it, and I just go through stuff that legally works for you to do so. Thank you for attending, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Dorothy. So see you all next time, everyone. Bye for now.